Just after sunset, the traveling midway of wonders began to glow like an island of neon in the Kansas wheat fields. Strings of colored bulbs blinked in syncopated rhythms. Speakers crackled with tin-bite calliope music. Fry oil mingled with hay and exhaust on the warm June wind. On opening night, the town of Brindle Ridge, population 3,000 plus dogs, poured through the gates with dimes glinting between their fingers. Nobody noticed at first the woman seated alone in the red and gold wagon painted with the words, Madame Zara, Seer of Destiny. Madame Zara was accustomed to being ignored until the precise moment people needed her. She watched faces the way a sailor watches shifting clouds, tracking the pressure in each smile and frown. When she breathed, her earrings tinkled softly, tiny plumes of incense coiling from the brass censer at her feet. Around her, rugs patterned with crescent moons covered pine planks scarred by decades of carnivals. In a velvet-lined drawer, she kept a thick ledger filled with sketches, dreams that slipped across her mind unbidden, sometimes in sleep, but usually while she was wide awake. That afternoon she had added a new drawing, a clown, mouth contorted, hair ragged beneath a half-melted wig, jolting atop the tilt-a-whirl like some grim marionette. Blue bolts radiated from the signature metal floor plate. Spectators recoiled, hats tipping, popcorn scattering. Near them, a ring of stuffed bears, prizes from the balloon dart stand, littered the dirt. And scrawled in the corner in her slanted hand, "Rigged game scandal brings about shock." She stared at it a long while, knowing the rules that governed her gift. Visions arrived tricky and elliptical. They never specified time or motive, yet outcomes were stubborn. If she tried to meddle, events detoured only to converge again. The inevitable found a gap and slipped through. Still, she told herself, maybe this one could be bent. A sudden clatter outside caused her to tuck the ledger away. The wagon's curtain fluttered, and a boy in overalls poked his head inside. "Mama says 5 minutes," he announced, meaning the midway would open to the general public. Zara nodded, palming a silver coin into his hand. The lad grinned and vanished. From her seat, she could glimpse the balloon dart booth 2 rows over. A heavy-set man named Rick Quickpick Dobbins ran it. He called every passerby champ and bragged he could thread a dart through a bottle cap at 30 yards. Zara's internal compass wobbled when he was near. Cheap tricks were common in carnival games: waxed milk bottles, weighted rings, elliptical hoops, but Rick exuded a slicker sort of malice. He manipulated chance the way a loan shark manipulates debtors. First the bait, then the bleed. Zara suspected that his scam operated on deeper gears than doctored darts, though she could not yet see how. Tonight he was holding court beneath a canvas awning, flanked by plush prizes as gaudy as Mardi Gras floats. Atop the highest shelf rested a giant purple llama, center-stitched eyes winking constantly thanks to a hidden battery. Rick never awarded that llama. It was just there to prime greed. Across the fairground, clutching a rag for wiping sweat, Bubbles the clown buttoned his polka-dot vest. His real name, Harvey Simpkins, didn't fit in the carnival ledger, so only close colleagues used it after hours. He was affable, sober, and unambiguously kind, everything his rubber nose suggested. Children loved him. 17 seasons with the Midway, and he had never missed a performance. This was the man Zara had seen convulsing under electric light. At 8 o'clock, the public streamed inside. Zara read palms for newly engaged couples and widows clutching secret tears. Between clients, she studied the distances among stalls, noting power cords, junction boxes, the main generator truck next to the tilt-a-whirl. A single fat cable, its sheath patched with electrician's tape, ran from the truck beneath the ride's ramp. She could almost hear it hum through the applause and shrieks. 9:15, a policeman in crisp tan uniform ducked into her wagon. Brass nameplate, Deputy Lyle. He asked for a quick peek at the future, nothing fancy, laying $2 on her table. Zara cupped his massive hands, memorized the calluses. Over his left shoulder, in a swirl of tobacco smell and dust motes, she glimpsed the balloon dart booth again, and the spindly shape of its back wall panel, where markedly larger balloons clustered. Rick was coaxing a local businessman, Mr. Broderick, the lumberyard owner, to prove his manhood by popping 3 reds in a row for the coveted llama. Zara's vision flared. She saw a dart explode, but not in rubber, in flesh, pinning public attention on trick seams tucked within the booth. She saw newspapers printed with words like scandal and fraud, and she felt the chain reaction travelling like a wire heating under illegal current, straight toward the tilt-a-whirl. "You've got a safe line through the next month, Deputy Lyle," she lied, giving him a cheap fortune. He thanked her, tugged his hat brim, and returned to patrol the grounds. Through the wagon curtains flickered Carnival colour, oranges, magentas, that electric teal reserved for rides no parent quite trusted. A young couple flagged Bubbles down, wanting a photo. He juggled 3 flaming torches, then doused them in a bucket with a comedic sizzle. Phones flashed, laughter sprayed. Zara stepped from her wagon and made for Rick's booth. "Care to win a beauty for your sweetheart?" Rick bellowed at passers-by, voice slicker than the buttered corn. His gaze darted sideways as he noticed her approach. "Evening, madame. Want to try your luck? First dart's free if you'll write me a rosy destiny." "I'm not here for games," she said, soft but steady. "I'm here to warn you. Something you're doing is going to expose us all. End it tonight." His smile hardened. "Ain't doing anything except giving folks a sporting chance. You of all people should believe in fate." "I do," she said. "That's why I know it can bite." Rick leaned forward so the rope barrier pressed into his gut. "Fortunes and flimflams run on the same motor, Zara. We tell folks what they want, then we take their coins. Don't preach purity to me." She'd hoped for remorse. Instead, she felt his pride, a copper tang in the air like pennies sucked dry. A premonition skittered over her skin, a jar filled with shaved metal filings, a battery, a wire, a fuse. She didn't need to know the schematics. She sensed the weapon of humiliation he was prepared to unleash if anyone challenged him. She left. Near the tilt-a-whirl, Harvey was finishing a set. He assisted a small girl onto the platform while her mother rotated the safety bar into place. Coloured lights smoothed his grease paint into an oil gloss. Seeing Zara, he waved. "Show's a hoot tonight," he called. "Kids are wild." She must have looked stricken because Harvey's smile slipped. He sidled to her, lowering his voice. "What's wrong?" She struggled for a compassionate lie, then realized this was the man she'd fail if she stayed silent. "I saw you," she whispered. "On this ride, an accident. It's electrical." Harvey blinked, politely puzzled. "Honey, I don't even operate the tilt. I just clown around it." "Doesn't matter. Don't set foot on that platform again." A buzzer sounded, and the tilt-a-whirl's cars began revolving. Teenagers squealed, operators hollered. Multicolour strobes painted everyone briefly invisible. Harvey touched her arm. "I appreciate your worry, Zara, but I've worked this fair a decade and a half. Since we switched to that diesel generator, we haven't had a single zap worse than sweater static. Generators fail, wires corrode. Will you breathe easier if I stay back 20 feet? He asked gently. She nodded, although dread knotted tighter. Harvey tipped his oversized hat and ambled toward the lemonade stand, purposely keeping his clown shoes off the ride's steel ramp. But fate, she knew, behaved like a magnet. You push it away, and it flips, attracted all the stronger in reverse. At precisely 9:30, yells erupted near the balloon dart booth. Zara spun. Mr. Broderick's hand was bleeding, a dart embedded along his thumb joint. The red balloon on the target wall remained unpopped. Rick shouted for towels, insisting the businessman slipped. Yet spectators murmured, noticing the bent steel tip and the unusual firmness of the balloon that refused to burst. Someone tugged at the target sheet. Beneath it lay quarter-inch plywood, far tougher than Carnival corkboard. The rig was obvious. Cameras surfaced. Deputy Lyle's hat bobbed in. Rick's face tightened. In 3 strides, he crossed to the fuse box mounted behind a stack of plush toys. He yanked 2 leads, wadded them into his fist, then bolted into the crowd. Zara's breath left her. Chain reaction. She chased. Rick moved like a boar, shoving teens aside. He sprinted over extension cords, past the Ferris wheel queue, until he reached the tilt-a-whirl. Security sirens wailed behind him. Rather than disappear, he veered onto the empty platform at a lull between cycles. His eyes scanned for a hostage, a distraction, anything. Nearby, Harvey had been chatting with the lemonade vendor. The clown saw Rick only a second before being grabbed by the vest. "Back off!" Rick roared at the approaching deputy. He brandished the severed leads, 2 frayed copper tongues sparking from the battery he'd stuffed into a canvas pouch. He pressed them to Harvey's torso like a cattle prod. The clown spasmed, not from current yet, but from fear. Zara slammed to a halt 10 yards away, heart detuning. "I'll fry funshine here if any of you take another step," Rick shouted. "I got 12 volts and nothing to lose." "12 volts won't kill, Rick," Deputy Lyle called, inching closer. Rick snarled. "Want to test that theory? There's more where it came from." His free hand fished in the pouch for a second unit, bigger, wired with a flashlight battery bank, and what looked, to Zara's horror, like stripped insulation from the tilt-a-whirl's main cable. That cable lay exposed near the control booth, where Rick must have yanked it during escape. In a ghastly flash, Zara grasped the full diagram. The rigged balloons were the bait, the scandal the fuse, but the real detonation, Rick's twisted escape plan, required harnessing the ride's live current. He'd jury-rig a circuit, threaten lethal voltage, and bargain his way out with cash or a getaway vehicle. The vision had not shown his face, only the final spark. She had assumed shock was incidental. In truth, it was his strategy, and Harvey was about to be the conduit. Rick realized he needed stronger juice than his handheld wires. He dragged Harvey onto car 3, the closest spinning saucer, and shoved him down on the 2-person seat. Slapping the clown's wrist into a metal armrest, he began winding a stripped copper wire around both, locking clown and ride into one loop. Harvey fought, but Rick's adrenaline lent him unnatural strength. Bubbles' flower squirter snapped off his lapel, water splattering. Rick's wire crossed it, arcing against damp tin with a snap. Harvey gasped. "Stop!" Zara cried. She climbed the platform. Sparks crackled where the ride's bus bar met Rick's improvised line. The generator still thrummed, meaning the tilt-a-whirl's floor was live, perhaps not lethal under normal use. But now one wrong lead could focus amperage straight into the human body. Deputy Lyle and 2 carnies edged nearer. Rick waved the sizzling wire like a scorpion tail. Back, shut down the fairground lights or the clown croaks. Zara lifted her palms. Rick, you're in deep, but no one has died yet. Walk away. Easy for you, Queen of Mysticism, he spat. Your booth isn't under investigation. Neither was yours until you stabbed a guest. He stabbed himself because he's clumsy. Zara seized the pause. She noticed Car 3's safety bar hadn't been lowered. Rick had been too frantic. The car's swivel joint allowed about 12 degrees of wiggle. If she could jostle the platform enough, perhaps the wire connection would snap or ground out before hitting Harvey. She needed a distraction both quick and thorough. Her brain flipped through Carnival elements like tarot cards, flame batons, jug of kerosene, amplifier speakers. The simplest, though, was sound. The calliope still bleated overhead on a timer. If she triggered a maintenance override, its klaxon mode would startle Rick. She pivoted to the control booth. A teenage operator cowered beside the main panel. Zara barked, "Emergency audio, full volume, now." The kid blinked, but the urgency of her tone beat his confusion. He slammed a red switch. Air ripped open with a feverish whoop, 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 augmented by strobe lights meant for tornado warnings. Rick's head jerked. In that instant, Harvey twisted hard, sliding across the slick seat. The copper wire tightened, but his wrist slipped free, lotion from balloon handling earlier acting as lubricant. He tumbled onto the platform. Rick cursed and lunged, losing his balance as the car revolved slightly from Harvey's momentum. The live lead he was swinging made contact with the ride's central handrail, intended as a cosmetic chrome accent, completing a circuit between the generator feed and the metal floor plate. There was a hiss, a blinding flash. Electricity surged through Rick's body, arching spine and limbs. For a horrible second, it looked like blue haloed filaments ran under his skin, mapping veins. He shrieked, a sound that cut through the klaxons, then fell sideways across the still damp surface. The fall yanked the wire from his grip, but current had already danced across Car 3 like angry sprites. It shot up the swivel joint and sparked from the canopy, chasing ground potential. Harvey, scrambling backward, caught a secondary arc through his clown shoes, just enough to jolt him, but not to stop his heart. He collapsed against the ramp railing, smoke rising from his rubber nose. Deputy Lyle rushed forward and kicked the severed lead clear. "Kill the generator!" he shouted. The teenager at the panel yanked 2 levers. Lights died across the midway, plunging everything into dark hush except for emergency lanterns. When Zara dared to look, Rick lay motionless, charred cloth curling at his sleeves. A sour ozone filled the air. Spectators gasped and pressed their hands over children's eyes. The scandal had swelled in a single roar and resolved with crematory theatrics. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They pronounced Rick dead, though they attempted compressions until the coroner cleared them. Harvey, conscious but dazed, was escorted to the medical trailer. Deputy Lyle's report would later dub the event accidental electrocution during attempted hostage situation, but newspapers across 5 counties branded it the shocking clown caper, running photographs of Bubbles being loaded into an ambulance, whiteface smeared like tragic snowfall. Midnight, generators stand silent. Only the Ferris wheel's silhouette cuts the star-speckled sky, while state inspectors lock ride gates with red tags. Wind carries stray popcorn kernels across the dirt. Zara sits on the tilt-a-whirl platform, legs dangling. The ambulance's tail lights are gone. A tow truck hauls Rick's booth away as evidence. Nobody thinks to order her off the ride. She listens to the emptiness and admits a confession to herself. She is not sure whether fate bent or merely snapped back upon itself. Soft footsteps. Harvey, wrapped in a silver emergency blanket, limps toward her. A medic's adhesive pad covers a blister on his neck shaped like a question mark. "They said I should rest," he mutters, "but I needed to see the witch who saved my hide." She smiles. "Clowns heal faster than civilians, I hear." "A spoonful of slapstick helps the medicine go down," he murmurs, voice raspy. Then he sits beside her, blanket billowing like mercury paper. "Your vision, was it this bad when you saw it?" "Worse. In the vision there were screams I can't describe. There were screams tonight." "Not yours," she clarifies. "That part changed." Harvey swallows. "Rick, did you know it would be him?" "I suspected." She exhales through her nostrils. But suspicion and proof are different continents. The breeze nudges a dangling wire above them, clicking softly like a clock running down. Crickets resume their private string section beyond the trucks. Harvey asks, "If you had tried to stop me earlier, tell me to skip work, leave town, would we be having this conversation now? Or does the universe always push back?" Zara traces the platform's textured steel with her fingertip. "Threads want to tangle," she says. "When I pull one straight, another snarls. Tonight we cut the worst knot, maybe at the cost of a smaller one. I can live with that." After a pause. "Can you?" He considers, gaze tracking the dark midway. "I won't wear this costume forever. Suppose I retire, buy a bakery, knead dough at 5 a.m. Do you see that?" Visions flutter at the edges of her mind, loaves rising golden, children laughing, icing sugar dusting his hair. She keeps it to herself. "I see possibilities," she says. "Plenty." He eases his gloved hand over hers, careful of residual nerve pain. "Thank you, Zara, for possibilities." Flashlights bob across the grounds, supervisors coordinating tomorrow's inspection. The pair remains silent until a manager beckons Harvey for a statement. He squeezes her hand once more before departing. Alone again, Zara pulls the leather ledger from her pocket. She flips to the sketch of the clown under electrical storm. With a pencil she shades new lines. Rick entering the frame, wires sparking, her own figure in the foreground, shout frozen on graphite lips. She adjusts the shading on the clown's face. Less agony, more astonished relief. At the edge of the page, she scribbles, "Some threads rewoven." Then in measured strokes, she tears the sheet free. Papers tumble out with it, old prophecies fulfilled, others pending, and scatter like albino leaves onto the tilt-a-whirl floor. She watches them flutter across the metal plates until wind carries them into darkness. Tomorrow, inspectors will pronounce the ride safe after grounding repairs. The Carnival will reopen, albeit minus one crooked game and one crooked operator. Rumour will claim Madame Zara foresaw everything, because rumour loves a neat bow. But she knows better. She will keep reading palms, chasing glimpses, wrestling knots, and sometimes losing. Still, tonight offers one certainty. The clown lived, and the catastrophe shrank compared to what could have been. That is enough for now. Zara folds the ledger shut and walks toward the horizon, where dawn, faint but persistent, lifts the black curtain of night.